Hi, Mike.
Hey, Bob. Let me ask you a question. First of all, welcome everybody.
Welcome to the SquadCast. It is going to be a crazy night. Now, ask me your question.
Very, very opinionated night, I think.
Yeah.
That 30-second countdown clock. Do all of our friends out there in viewer land see that?
They see it. They see it until they see it when we go live. So sometimes I usually start it before the actual go live. So there's a whole here. So here's a little background on how we do this. So I start the clock before we actually push the button, so that the countdown is running when we actually hit the live air, and then we stop it when I'm ready to kick our intro in. And so
Right.
it's all everybody sees it.
So if not for that, I might have forgotten how to count backwards from 30.
Well, that's why I do
Every
it.
week.
I need to keep you reminded, because it's
I appreciate that.
be able to do
Now,
that.
if you can do it in Roman numerals next time.
No.
No.
You lose that. That's where you lose. Nope. So everybody, welcome. Feel free to enter the comments tonight. We are going to be talking about a bunch of stuff. We got some news we need to deal with first. And then we have tonight on the show, Zack Quaintance is going to be here. He just launched his second Kickstarter today, The Death of Comic Bookcase. And we're going to talk about that. And hey, Dino, welcome.
Dean
and well, Dean's always welcome to join.
At least until he realizes those tricks are going to bounce.
Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true. And then we also have Ed Catto, our good buddy and member of Pop Culture Squad on, and we're going to talk about Ithacon, and we're going to talk about some other stuff, and we are going to get into it. The first thing I kind of want to talk about, and I'm going to give Mike, some room here, and we lost a valuable member of the comics community over the last. Well, we lost a couple of them, and I'm going to change up real quick. One of the people that we lost was Mark Bright, otherwise known as Doc Bright or MD Bright. I knew him as MD Bright as an artist, and for me, he was a absolutely brilliant artist, fantastic storyteller. He illustrated some of the most important parts of my childhood when I was reading things. I remember first paying attention to his name, and the work he did was on Power Man and Iron Fist. Subsequently, then he moved on to DC, and he did Emerald Dawn, which I absolutely loved. I love the work that he did there. He's also done a bunch of other things, and I want to just take a minute to remember Mark Bright.
Lovely guy. I mean, truly lovely guy.
67.
Yeah.
Young.
Yeah, that's true. There's this thing that occurred to me when I was way back when I was in my 60s, that when if you die when you're in your 60s, people think, oh, you died young.
Yep.
If you die when you're in your 70s, people go like, well, 70, 80s, it's like, oh, you had a good run. 90s, it was like, when is this guy going to die? Well, Mark was just sweet and charming, and it was nothing compared to his talent, which couldn't fill a comic book. It would fill a whole wall of comic books. Quantum and Woody's my favorite, but everybody's got to have a favorite. That's why it's called favorite. Loved his stuff. You were the one who told me that he died, and I came to a complete stop. That little brain freeze, and I mean, you don't get used to it. You don't get used to it, folks.
No, it's been a tough week.
Yeah, geez.
And like I said, Mark's work was really important to me, and it's interesting because and we'll talk about this as we get through. Like, one of the things that I find is important in this community, and part of what we talk about on the show, we do this show. It's we're here every week for you guys, and for us, and we enjoy doing it. But the thing about comics is that it's a community more than most things, and it's small, and it's when we lose people, it hurts because they meant a lot to us, and I felt that way with Mark. I was terribly disappointed that he's passed and he's no longer able to do it for us.
There were guys who would come into the office, to deliver their work or hang out or mooch a free lunch or whatever. And most of those guys are fine. And some of them were great. And then there was Mark and a handful of others. It's like, oh, cool. I don't mind stopping whatever it is I'm doing and working a little later. Let's hang out with this guy. There were that's the short list. Believe me.
He had a couple of very important partnerships, Chris Priest, somebody he worked a lot with, somebody who know real well, and
I conned them back into the business. It's the comics business.
I understand. I absolutely agree. I know, and also Dwayne and him were had a long partnership. Yes. And it was important. And so again, here's to Doc Bright.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeez.
This is going to be a great show, folks. Believe me, we're going to get the really good stuff, but we gotta hit this because this is what we're here. This is our family. This is our community. There's somebody else we lost that we need to take a minute to talk about, and this one is where I'm really going to turn it over to you, Mike, and Bob Beerbaum.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about Bob for a minute, if you don't mind.
Bob. Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that he was a cantankerous bitch. He would defend his position on anything to the death, and he was doing it forever. He was one of the first well-circulated comic book historians. He was one of the first retailers who promoted underground comics, comic book retailers who promoted underground comics. He could have run a head shop and done it longer, but he pushed it hard. Now, of course, his store was in Haight-Ashbury, so he had the opportunity. But he helped a lot of my friends and a little bit of me earn a living in those underground comics days. Mm-hmm. So I'm indebted to him for that. I don't agree with everything he's ever said. And I mark that. That's.
I'm sure I don't think there's anybody that you've ever agreed with everything they've ever said,
including me.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I've changed my mind. But it was okay with Bob. I could be funny about it, and we could make it more of a challenge. He and I went to visit Irwin Donenfeld.
Yes, that's the story you were going to tell me.
And I'm sure that's the one you would have wanted had you sent me a note. Irwin was the second editorial director, or third maybe, at DC Comics. He was really focused on the circulation end of things, and he pretty much ran that part. So he knew what was selling, and he knew it faster and better than anybody else. And when he sold the company to Warner Brothers, to what became Warner Brothers, everything else, he left. That's it. See ya. And he lived in Westport, Connecticut, and he had a little boat supply business that was 1.5 miles down the road from where I have lived for the past 30x years. And Bob and I went to see him. Bob had seen him subsequently several times. And it was a fascinating time because I got to ask all of those fanboy questions with all of the knowledge that I've acquired in this industry since
Right.
the 70s. So it was tempered with some real world stuff. We had a wonderful time. Erwin was just the nicest guy on the planet, and he took us out to this wonderful, sleazy little bar that was near his store, his office, and it was wonderful. The food was absolutely spectacular, and then he took us on a little drive to see. And I've told the story before, to see where Alex Raymond cracked up Stan Drake's car,
Yeah.
which was nearby in Westport. Everybody of his generation has taken me to that spot over
Well,
the
at least
years.
you know where it is.
Well, it's gone now. Sadly, there was
I
this big boulder, and it's gone now. But Bob and I, for two old fanboys with a real interest in history, and two of the few with a real interest in the history of the business end of comics, which nobody succeeded more at than Bob. Nobody. Bob is the guy who single-handedly started that whole Platinum Comics thing and researched the industry out to the mid 1800s. We all think of comics as having started in 1935 or during the caveman time, but there's this period in between. And Bob found it and researched it and tracked it down and reprinted as much stuff as he could. And as he was dying, he knew he was dying. He wasn't a healthy man, but at our age, none of us are. As he was dying, he started to just overload Facebook with his reference material.
Yeah.
Because it was all cool and he wanted to get as much of it out as possible. And the way I knew that Bob had died, knowing that he was extremely sick and was on chemo,
Sure.
and the chemo wasn't working, except for to screw up his brain. It's because that stopped. And I mean that stopped not like 3 days later I realized it. I knew it immediately. I woke up, probably in the afternoon, and turned on Facebook, and nothing. There was nothing. There was no stuff there from Bob.
And there should have
So
been.
I knew.
Yeah.
I knew he was gone.
Sure.
And it saddens me. I mean, okay, I like crusty guys who are willing to inanely defend the smallest sliver of their beliefs. That's great because I can have fun with that.
And that's what we're here for.
Well, that's right. That's part of the fan experience. So Bob and I got along just fine.
That's awesome. I'm sorry your friend's gone, and I'm sorry for the community that he's not here to share.
I've said this before as well, but I'm not sure I credited it, so I can correct a mistake that I may have made. Brian Augustine, who is also no longer with us, was younger than me. Brian used to refer to this as a donut shop, which I thought was the best allusion to discuss the whole comics community ever. I sold that at a speech I made in Baltimore, at the Harvey Awards. But that's what we are. We're a great donut shop. We're all sitting around the table and bitching about stuff.
Yeah.
Which you'll hear some more of tonight. And
we are going to get to
it. And that nature.
Get there.
That nature of comics is what keeps me here. It's a wonderful community. These are my friends, These are my friends.
We have to turn to one other passing that happened over the past few days, and like I said, it's been a tough week in the comics community, and this one's hard. I'm just going to kind of put it up here. Ed Pisker has passed away, if you haven't heard that. unfortunately, he took his life a couple of days ago or yesterday, and he'll be missed. There were some. There was. It's been a tough week. It's been a tough time for him. There was some allegations that have come out. People have complained or made statements and told their story about feeling mistreated and worse by him, and he is no longer with us, and it's a sad, tragic story in every way. I'm not going to stand here and make statements to one way or the other. I just know that comics is hurting because of this story, and is hurting also because he's no longer with us. And
given his age, the future of this medium is hurting because we don't have him in it to continue doing unique stuff.
Sure. I mean,
nobody walks on water in anywhere here, period. Nobody walks on water.
Right.
And it's a creative job. So people that you work with can disagree with you creatively and sometimes take that very personally. I'm not saying that whatever allegations may have been made are true or not true, or to what extent. That's all in the past. I'm not sure what we can do about it now. And I'm not sure there's anything we need to have done before.
Well, I do want to say
Ed's no longer with us. That's it. That's it. His work is gone.
Yep. And I do want to say, there's plenty of information if people want to go find out more details. Feel free to do that. I want to say very clearly that the people who made the allegations are not anyone's target. And that is
right.
Very clear.
Right.
People are allowed to tell their stories.
No. At the point of death, I kind of, just roll up my sleeves, clap my hands, and step backwards. The guy's not there to defend.
It's tough. It's been a tough day. I know. I talked to some friends yesterday. I just reached out to them and said, I love them and I'm there for them, and that's all we can do.
That's right.
And so, on that note, we're a community and we need to love each other. We need to support each other. And we need to be good to each other.
We need to understand each other.
Sure. Absolutely. I want to let's do just a quick bit of comic news, and we're gonna get to Zack. And I think it's important that we talk about this because we usually do new number ones. Excuse me. I am feeling a lot better, folks, from last week. So we're doing better. A little bit of cough left over, but we're doing good. Tomorrow is the actual kind of premiere launch of Ghost Machine, and Jeff Johns is busy. I'm just saying. There's 3 books coming out tomorrow from Ghost Machine at Image Comics that Jeff Johns has written. His kind of little universe here. What I haven't read them yet. I plan on reading them tonight. But what I find super interesting is that he's got these 3 books coming out. He wrote all 3 of them. He and Brad Anderson colored all 3 of them, and Rob Lee lettered all 3 of them. And I love that. I love the concept of keeping the penciler and inker changed between Gary Frank and Jason Fabok and Brian Hitch, schlubs. But I think that I don't know, I'm kind of excited for this kind of 3-book launch.
Well, he's a hell of a writer.
Sure.
And he was one of the few people who did work that endures on the whole DC, I forget what they're calling it, what they called it, the video and movies stuff. He did good work, very good work, in some cases brilliant work. I like his writing, although there was one guy in Pop Culture Squad who does not. And That's okay. He's entitled to his opinion. So yeah, I'm also looking forward to those books, just to see what he can create in his own little universe, which he's been promoting for months. And
Right.
that's great. That's great because now, like, I'm expecting great stuff.
I hope so.
I hope so.
All right. Uh, let's get to some of our guests because we have some great stuff. We're gonna bring in our first guest. Our first guest is Zack Quaintance. He is better known as Batman's Bookcase, Comics Bookcase. He is a journalist. He's a writer. He's a friend, and I'm happy to have him on the show today. He launched his second Kickstarter called "The Death of Comics Bookcase," and we're going to bring him in now and have him talk about it. Hey Zack, welcome to the show.
Hey Bob. Hey Mike. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
Zach.
Absolutely.
It's great to have you here.
Right
I read
now.
the book that you're hustling money off of today. I think the Kickstarter started today.
Yep.
I've already started hustling the money. Yeah.
Yeah, and let me tell you right off the top, I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Period. Just, it's like, oh, that's cool, and then like the next little segment, it's like, oh, that's cool. So thank you for giving me some pleasure in the last couple of hours. I do appreciate that. Some reading pleasure. I want to make clear.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the kind words. That this is cool. This is cool. This is cool was the exact reaction I was hoping for with this book. So it's good to hear that.
Well, you got it from me.
Yeah, awesome. I agree with you. I am not all the way through it, but I've leafed through the whole thing, and I'm about halfway through the book, and I'm a fan of it. Like I backed you on Nick Next Door. I'm glad to see that coming back a little bit here, and I also. So everybody who's watching, go ahead. The link to the Kickstarter is there in the scroll. It's also in the comments wherever you're watching this, and wherever you're watching it, go ahead and subscribe so you can know when we come back and bring you stuff. But you also posted something, and I'll put this in the comments a little bit later. But you posted a blog on the Beat today, and I really enjoyed the shit out of that. And tell us what you're trying to do here. Talk about this project.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I used to run a blog called Comics Bookcase. I did that for I don't know about 4 years or so. And there were we did 3 to 4 updates a day. We did reviews. We did reading lists, like things like best horror comics, best Vertigo comics of the 90s, just stuff like that. It was a site kind of aimed at introducing people who were looking for new recommendations, kind of connecting them with things they might like. But that it was very much a passion project. Like I was actually losing money on it, like to maintain the domain and everything, and it became a part-time job to just and I just got burned out. And so I took a little bit of time off, and I started kind of getting back into comics journalism with the Beat a little bit, very part-time. But I started also trying to make my own comics at that point, writing a lot, and working with artists. And then after I had a few shorts kind of emerging from those collaborations and writing, I thought, people remember Comics Bookcase. There's got to be at least 10 to 12 of them out of there who fondly remember the old blog. Yeah, Bob amongst them, who fondly remember the old blog. So why not use that name and have a little fun with it, instead of just kind of letting the URL lapse and the thing fade away. Let's do a story about it and make some jokes and make some comics. So that's where the project comes from.
I understand that. Let me tell you why. In the mid-70s, there was this APA, which was Amateur Press Association, that I was part of, and it was just full of like sort of high-powered comics people, of which I was not yet one. Paul Levitz and Carol Kalish, and just wonderful people. And yeah, it's 76, so that's like a long time ago.
I wish I could.
50 years ago, dude.
I understand.
So I had to have you'd send like 40 copies of your little fanzine, it'd be like 50 copies perhaps. You'd photocopy it and send it to one central mailer, and that person would put it all together and then ship it out to everybody who was part of the APA. Cool. I called mine Brainiac on Banjo because of the Bonzo Dog Band song that Vivian Stanchel wrote, which is brilliant, and also the phrase Brainiac on Banjo is just awesome. And also it'd be kind of cool to see who would get that. I have used Brainiac on Banjo everywhere I have gone, as long as I still owned it. Ever since, for the last 50 years, including at Pop Culture Squad, where I write about all kinds of weird and strange stuff. So I get that. It's not branding, it's nostalgia perhaps, but it's cool.
Yeah. There's, you put a lot. I'm sure you put a lot into Brainiac on Banjo, as I did Comics Bookcase, and there was a time where it was the main thing I was doing in comics, so it'll always have kind of a special place in my heart. So I don't want to just discard it. Yeah, it was nice to kind of give it a second life this way, rather than just let it fade away. If I was even capable of doing that.
So I also say, like, I read your piece on the Beat again, and it was a little on the mark. I felt it really hard. I spent a lot of time, maintaining and supporting Pop Culture Squad, and writing and learning editing and learning video and all the things you kind of said about, I got to do a little more of this, a little of that, and I felt it hard. So I get it. I'm glad for you that you've kind of moved. You've been able to leave it behind, and you're using this opportunity to take what I believe is a new career and kind of lay waste to your old.
Yeah, no, that's definitely part of the goal here, is kind of like excising Comics Bookcase, and marking sort of a transition from having run that blog, which is probably what people know me best for, to now really going all in to try to create comics and make comics and be known more for that. So there's a little bit of uh, put the thing to rest and then move on to something new going on here.
And I'm all for that. I am a big proponent of your work as a writer. Whether it's, you're a great journalist, and I appreciate that. But I think you're a great comic book writer too. I'm really excited to see you continue to grow in that field. Talk a little bit about what backers will get from Death of Comics Bookcase.
Sure, yeah. The primary thing is there's two different books. There's the standard edition, which has the John McCrae cover, 48 pages, all story, stapled. And then there's a second book, which is a 60-page perfect bound deluxe edition, which has the Raoul Allen cover. And that's got the same 48 pages of story from the standard version, but it's also got process stuff. There'll be the pinups for the other two covers, so you'll have them in the back, and then there'll be 10 pages of kind of script laid out next to inks, colors, letters. So I always kind of appreciate that when you buy a collection or a hardcover or something, when they have script pages right beside the art process. So thought, why
Sure.
not do that here? Give people an insight into how we made these stories, because working with 6 creators, there's a little bit of difference to how each of them was kind of done, and I think you'll kind of see that come through in that deluxe version. So those are the two main things, and then there's other, I guess, higher tiers that, you can buy all three covers at once, the third one being just a classic superhero variant. And then there's a chance to hang out with me virtually, which my brother purchased, which was kind of strange. um, and then there's also like if you want to talk about comics blogging, kind of making the switch I'm trying to make, just really anything, like I'm game for it. So can do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I backed the deluxe edition because I always, if I'm gonna go big. That's how it went.
Let me ask you about your journalism background, because I have that. I have a useless journalism degree. And,
Same.
I once referred to a journalism school thing as a Ponzi scheme. And I did that to our friend Charlie Meyerson, who's been a reporter, broadcast reporter forever, and a comics fan even longer. And he's never let me forget that I use that phrase. So tell me about your experience with the Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, I'm a career journalist. That's my day job still, to an extent. Mike, you're from Chicago, right? Do I have that right? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I
Proudly.
grew up outside of Chicago, and I went to college at Southern Illinois University.
I went to Southern Illinois.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. So
Well, it was about 4 centuries before you,
sure.
but I went to Carbondale.
Yeah, I had
my
no
advisor
idea.
was
This is why we bring this is. It's a very small donut shop.
It really is.
But yeah, so I went to Southern Illinois University and I got a job at the Daily Egyptian student newspaper, which has been around for 100 years, I think. Like quite literally has been in existence 100 years. So
It was Cleopatra, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always weird explaining like why it says Daily Egyptian on your resume and you didn't work in Egypt, like people don't recognize Southern Illinois as Little Egypt, which is like
no, and then you got to explain Salukis.
Salukis.
It just gets weird.
Right. So I did that. Like that was I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to make a little money at college. So I got a job at the Daily Egyptian and started covering like campus politics and stuff. Rode that into a daily newspaper job, like right around the recession. I was coming out of college, down in South Texas, in McAllen, Texas, covering night cops, which is a thing that pretty clearly inspired one of the stories in the book was based on that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that for 5 years, and then eventually newspapers were not really going anywhere. Now I work for a trade journal that's very dry, but stable. And I write about government technology for my day job. So yeah, but the Ponzi scheme thing, I agree with you. Like you don't need a journalism degree to practice. Even if you want to practice journalism, you're probably better off studying politics or history or something.
Oh, I agree absolutely, because, and this is going to make me sound really old. I don't mean it this way, but learning how to write, particularly in a journalistic fashion, nobody gets that anymore.
Sure.
That's just not how we approach the world, how we approach life. I love newspapers. I grew up reading, Mike Royko and
Oh yeah.
geez, it was this great stuff. Where in the Chicago area did you grow up?
Northwest suburbs. I'm from DuPage County, Glen Ellen, Illinois, Wheaton, Illinois. Those suburbs all sort of run together out there. One may as well be the next one.
I felt the same way. My parents moved us when my sister was just about to go to high school and I was just about to enter grammar school. They moved us across the street of Devon so that we wouldn't have to grow up in a Chicago school district, which turned out to be like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But I understand that, because me and all my friends, we hung out in Chicago. We grew up on Devon, not out in the burbs. So I totally get that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the most exciting. That Chicago suburban sprawl, like out go all the way out to Naperville, Aurora. Like it's not the most exciting. The city's much more exciting. Yeah.
That's right.
So we're gonna get to things other than Chicago.
Sure.
'Cause-
Yeah. We could end up going for the next 20
Well,
minutes.
listen, we had Tim Seeley on last week, so
Okay.
he was,
All right.
all right, so he was in his element. All right,
This
so
is becoming a Chicago podcast.
And I took Bob once and hopefully
Sure.
again
we'll do it again.
to a lunch of a lot of the Chicago comics talent,
Yeah, sure.
and he got through it all the way. Now Chicagoans talk about Chicago all the time.
We love it.
Incessantly. Incessantly, because there's so much cool history. So Bob is working hard to becoming a virtual Chicago.
Let me tell you, I'm gonna share just a little bit of that thing for people who haven't heard this story, because I don't think I've actually told this publicly, but I want you to hear this. Mike invites me to lunch. This was a year ago. Actually, it was a year ago this past weekend, because I just got a bunch of alerts from it was a year ago that we did the first 40th anniversary show panel. But we had lunch, and so Alex Ross was there, and I got through. Here's the thing people don't know, and I'm gonna out Alex, is that he is probably a bigger Mike Gold, or at least as big a Mike Gold fan as I am. Like, he came to lunch with notes and questions for Mike. And he's like, I got this book and I have one of the questions about this. And I sat across from him and we just talked about it, and kind of, I've been with Mike closely for years now. So we were kind of like talking about stuff. And I was wearing a Gatchaman shirt the entire time, sitting across from him. And it wasn't until I got up that he kind of like mentioned it. I'm like, yeah, I wore it on purpose. Sorry. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and Chicago's love, and I'm glad you're talking about it. I want to.
Hang on. I gotta tell you what an honor it is to have a guy half as gifted as Alex, let alone as pleasant a person, coming to lunch. You do it like maybe once a year. Coming to lunch and having these questions, it's like, holy crap, man, that's a wonderful thing for my ego. Just wonderful.
I want
He's an all-time great,
Yeah,
I want to thank Robert for being a long time watcher. I hope he's still watching, but and I want to give him a little bit of a plug that if you're not a fan or not a supporter of J. Robert Deans and JRD Grand Punwick, their Patreon is really good. Something that's definitely worth supporting. And he had a really nice piece and had some really good words to say about Ed Piskor in some measured tones that was well written. And I want to thank him for that. So just giving you that. I want to turn back to Death of Comics Bookcase, because you have like a lot of great people here. I just want to talk about the colorists and the letterers, because me, and they're all fantastic. Like, I am amazed at it. All of these colorists are super excellent. Let me tell you, Jason Wordie, he there's things he does with color that's out of this world. Like, he did a new book last week that I just read.
Morning Star.
Yes.
Is that the one?
The
color in that
Star
book is phenomenal. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And I knew when I saw his name on the cover that it was going to be great. And when I turned the page, and I'm like, yep, this is amazing. And Becky Carey is a great letterer. I'm super impressed with her. So this is a great list of people. I mean, that you have working on this book. How did you cultivate this?
Yeah, like, why would they all want to work with me, right? Like,
exactly. Go ahead and answer that.
I think I'm really polite via email. Like, I think that's a key.
You're polite in general.
And generally, yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, I just kind of went one by one with each of the stories. So I would start with reaching out to the artist, and once we started collaborating, we'd start talking colorists, like who might be a good fit, and brainstorm a few names, and go from there. And that was really just that simple. And I think I mean, I've been working on this book for a very long time, like a year and a half, maybe. And so everyone I wanted to work with, I was able to afford a pretty long timeline, so that they could work it into their schedules. Like I wasn't reaching out being like, I need this next month. Like it was, if you could do this by the end of the summer, I'd love to work with you. And all these stories are 8 to 10 pages in length. So it wasn't, I think that really worked in our advantage, being able to book such great artists and colorists and letters on down, as it was a small project, flexible timeline, and we met their rates. Like it was kind of that's
They're
how we look on it.
also thematically linked, the stories. So it doesn't quite qualify as an anthology book. I
Thank
mean,
you. Yeah.
it's sort of both. And it's one of those experiences where the sum is greater than the parts.
That was my hope for it. Like I really wanted it to. I mean, I wanted to work in different genres, but feel like it was still the same book. Like that was a big goal behind it. So there's little attempts to connect things, and I think there's like kind of a shared tongue-in-cheek sense of humor that runs through a lot of it. But yeah, I'm glad it read that way. We worked for people who haven't seen the page, there's a framing device that runs through it where an actual walking, talking comics bookcase is sort of narrating it, much to the chagrin of a group of kids who are horrified at his existence. So, and then there's also little things in the stories, like if you'll notice in the second story, the character's reading a werewolf priest comic, and the
Yeah.
first story is about a werewolf priest. So like there's little things here and there that I wanted it so it would feel like you'd want to sit down and read the whole thing start to finish. Like it would kind of lead you through it rather than being easier read in chunks or something.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect anthology book, you could read the stories in any order. And I don't recommend that with your book, and it's not an anthology book.
Yeah, it's actually been tough to describe it for that reason. Like I don't know, because anthologies are usually not all written by the same person as well. Like so it's been, I don't know what to call it, like a short comics collection or just Death of Comics bookcase, like
It's
it's
the
been
comics
tough.
bookcase.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it. One of the things I want to tell the folks out there who are watching, who are listening, and it's very clear on the page. This book is done. It is
Done.
done.
Yeah.
We have it. We've read it. This is not something where people are going to have to wait around for a long time. But you have plans for the comic bookcase Volume Q. It's not really dead. It's like dying.
Yeah. Not to like yeah, it's if we get to, if the Kickstarter is a big hit, a lot of people back it, and we come away with money to kind of start making the second one. There will be a second one, and maybe as soon as next year. But yeah, the bookcase will return. So the title's a little darker, I think, than the actual situation. I remember my wife read it and she was like, "Oh, this bookcase is so nice. You're really gonna kill him?" And no, he'll be back. Like, cheer up. Like,
It's comics.
it's
I mean,
comics. Yeah, nobody stays dead.
No.
I mean, as of right now, let me see. Let me refresh this page, because there were 100 backers last time I refreshed, and we're at 100 backers, and you're almost fully funded already. So this is going to happen. We're gonna and do you have stretch goals, like things you have ideas behind? You haven't talked about yet?
I have a few in mind. I didn't want to put stretch goals out there because I'm very superstitious.
Sure,
and
I understand that. I understand
yeah,
that.
yeah.
You're a journalist. This is how it goes.
Sure,
We
sure.
expect nothing.
Very good. Very good.
We expect
So
nothing.
I thought putting stretch goals out there could be a jinx on things. So when we're still a little less than $1,500 away from funding. Once we get there, I'll put those out there. But yeah, I've thought about things like prints that would come with the book, and maybe another online short comic that would go out to everyone, no matter what they backed. Things like that.
Sure.
Things that are
Yeah.
easy for me to fulfill, is because like you have to put these Kickstarter packages together yourself. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
a big,
Oh yeah. Listen, hey, give me a call. I'll drive down. I'm not
you're not far away.
Crowdfunded projects make me jealous. Because as an editor and occasional publisher, you got the book done. I know it's going to happen. Look, it's done. I don't have to wait for it.
Sure.
So that gets you over the worst hump in comics. That's terrific.
No, I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I've spent the last year and a half waiting for things to move in comics. Like patience is also I mean, I worked with 20 different creators on this book, so there was a lot of patience and kind of waiting. And it's easy to do when you know something's going to be really good. And like I'm not beholden to a announced release date or anything. I'm just waiting for it to get done so I can then launch the Kickstarter and have it. So
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything we haven't touched? We're going to come back to you, but we're going to bring Ed soon. But I want to, before we get to that, is there anything that you want to say more about this book that we haven't touched on? We haven't asked you yet.
No, I really appreciate the way you described it, Mike. That's really kind of you. Just let people know if they're interested. There's it's across genres. Like there's most of all my favorite comic genres are represented in this book. So there's a horror comic, there's a stab at superheroes, there's fantasy, crime, and kind of a sci-fi meta take at the end. So yeah, it's got a lot of different variety, a lot of different artists. I think there's something in it. It sounds cliche to say, but I think there's something in it for everybody, all tastes.
I agree.
The bottom line is it's really good, in my opinion. And I strongly encourage everybody out there in Etherland to back this thing. This thing's got to happen. It's finished. Let's make this happen.
Here. Yeah.
I agree 100%. We're gonna bring in Ed. I don't want you to leave, Zach. If you
I'll hang out. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring in Ed. We're gonna talk, but there's something we want. Mike and I have been talked ahead of time. We want to bring up another topic that's news related, but I want you to be around for it.
Sure, happy to. Yeah.
We're gonna change topics here, folks. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being here on this busy night. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so wherever you're watching this. And we're gonna bring in our good friend Ed Catto, who is the absolute entrepreneur and Renaissance man. He is a professor. He is an owner. He is a journalist. He is a marketing agent in everything you could possibly imagine. If you need Ed to do something, he's going to do it for you. We're going to bring him in right now. We're going to talk about Ithacon. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how you doing?
How's it going, Ed?
Do you know Zach? Zach, Ed, Zach?
Yeah, hey, Zach.
Hey.
I love everything you're doing and saw a little sneak peek of the book. Just amazing.
Thank you.
Looks really great. And yeah, been a fan from afar for years. So
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ed, you're looking too healthy. You're making us look bad.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Let me tell you something. I saw a picture of Ed and older Ed, and I know what Ed's going to look like in 20, 30 years. So you look great. You're looking perfect.
What do you mean? You sound like me and my dad?
Picture your dad. You posted it like yesterday or something like that.
Oh yeah,
That's true. Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So I a number of years ago I moved.
I forgot Ed's an amazing artist. That's right.
Oh, you're very kind, sure. I moved back to my hometown about 7 years ago, where my dad still lives, and so like all the people in town, are always like calling me my dad's name, or boy, you look just like him. So yeah, I'm living in his shadow. He is a fantastic guy with a big he casts a big shadow. So
so for people who don't know, every Wednesday or Thursday, depending on if I get run out of it, but sometime midweek, we get a With Further Ado column from Ed, which covers anything that he has read or seen or been to. And, it's just such an important part of Pop Culture Squad.
Thanks. Yeah, my editor gives me a wide berth to choose topics. I appreciate that.
He's a good guy. I like him.
Well, Ed was actually there at the very founding of Pop Culture Squad.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
he's been critical to this. He actually has the longest numbered column at Pop Culture Squad.
Coming up on 300. Can you
Getting
believe
there.
it?
It's going to be in a couple
Oh,
of
crap.
like by June, I think we'll be
Mogul.
there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
What a
Which
sucker.
thank thank you all out there for letting us do this for as long as we have. I want to we have coming up. Mike and I will be at Ithacon. If you haven't ever been to Ithaca, New York, it is a tiny little hamlet in the in the north of the Finger Lakes area of New York. The same town as Ithaca College and some other little school.
Yeah. Tompkins County and Cornell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two other schools.
So what's going on this year? So for the people who don't know, thank you, Dean, for being here. We're going to see Dean there. Dean is going to be a guest, and we'll get to that. But it's upcoming on. You can see in the bottom the place to go to get your tickets. It's April 27th and 28th in Ithaca, New York. Ithaca College, and I'm kind of giving some people the background here. Ithacon has been around for 47 years. Started by a bunch of other people, but over the past several years, I don't know the exact, maybe 8 to 10, somewhere in that range, maybe less. But Ithaca College has kind of taken on the role of putting on the show. And there's a class that runs at Ithaca College that Ed teaches that the kids in that class, the college students, put on the show.
Right.
And I can't talk about that enough. I tell people everywhere that when when we talk about what shows, I'm like, well, I'm going to Ithacon because I always go to Ithacon because it's important to me because these kids, the students, people who are going to school for whatever reason, something related to pop culture or media or journalism or whatever it is, come into this class and Ed teaches them about putting on a con, and they do a great job. And talk about how that is for you, man.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah. It's fantastic. This fellow Bill Turner and a ragtag bunch of fans almost 50 years ago started Ithacon. Bill's background was even science fiction conventions, although he was deep into comics. And now Bill is still involved, and God bless him. He's a great fella. And there's been this alliance between Ithaca College and Bill and the comic book club of Ithaca to run Ithacon. And I teach in the business school. I teach entrepreneurism. That's really my focus. And I made a case that it's super important to learn how to run trade shows, to learn how to survive trade shows and conventions, especially if you're an entrepreneur. And in fact, we're just in New York and we had 2 companies say how important it is to startup-y companies to engage well at trade shows because an inordinate amount of their business comes from trade shows. So we run, real live convention, Ithacon. It's not a kiddie show. It's not my uncle has a barn, let's put on a Comic-Con. We run it with very, very high standards. I had some background in the convention world with Reed Elsevier. And students learn everything about running a convention. Along the way, they learn a lot of pop culture things. We have about half our comic book nerds and half are people who just, want a project they can sink their teeth into. And, they don't know a Mike Gold from a Dean Haspiel, but they're going to learn, darn it, and work really hard, make sure everyone has a good time. So this year is a really great year. We typically been able to bring back all of our favorites, people like Mike Gold and you, Bob Harrison. And we've got some new folks on board this year. Oh, Walter Simonson. Walter's been going since 2 off and
so
on.
we're gonna let's talk about the guests. I mean,
this
is first of all,
I was kind of winding up my spiel. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. The guests are you like I was looking at it again today, and there's more people than I even thought about. Somebody is already mentioned on this show tonight besides Dean. So we got Shelly Bond, who is an Ithaca College graduate.
That's right. Yeah, she's a fearless alumna, and we're so excited. She came years ago a couple times, but she hasn't been in a while. So
probably not since she moved out to LA.
Yeah, with the West Coast. So we're so excited to have her and also Philip Bond come to this show and kind of celebrate their careers. I think Shelly is a fantastic role model as well. She's actually zoomed in to teach my class in the past, and
she's a wonderful person and a friend of mine, and I can't wait to see her. Dino's going to make his debut at Ithacon, and I'm hoping, and we're looking forward to that.
We talked about it for a long time, and even though we have Mike Gold there, we needed to up the cool factor, so we dragged Dino for that.
Did we talk about the dress code?
Optional, 100%.
Sure. And then Louise, and I have to control myself around Louise, because I tend to make a fool of myself.
Oh, well, two fantastic people, and we also, I mean, they're a lovely couple, and what a great role models just for working together like that. But we really try and celebrate each person even as a person. So Louise Simonson and everything that she's written and been involved with over the years. We've got a really cool panel though this year. We're going to be focusing on her time as an editor at Warren. So it's going to be I forget the title. They came up with a clever title like Black and White and Red All Over or something, and that'll be fun. Walter Simonson, we have a great picture of Walter from a few years ago when he was last here, and he's a very, very kind person, and he drew a illustration for like a 4-year-old kid, and it was near the end of the show, and Ithacon is the type of place where there might not be a huge line for these celebrities, and this little boy had his Walter Simonson moment, and he probably didn't realize like how cool that was, but yeah, that and enjoyed it. And
absolutely, we have Roger Stern.
The two of them, Walter and Wheezy, are quite a couple. I don't know if they know this, but they're just a unit that you want to go by and appreciate. The two of them together, and at a show like this one, like Ithacon, that's a unique opportunity because it's not, San Diego. You can actually approach people.
Yeah, that's right. You can spend a little time and have a few laughs, and that makes it super fun. Yeah, the Ahoy guys will be there. You're looking at Tyler Chin Tanner. We've got some amazing publishers. So we have Ahoy and those folks. Tyler Chin Tanner runs A Wave Blue World,
which I love. I love Tyler. Tyler's a great guy.
Great guy, strong entrepreneur.
Chris Condon is going to be there. That was a surprise to me. And he did a pull quote in Death of Comics Bookcase as well.
Yeah, he did. He read the Texas story because he's got the Texas book.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's a good man, great creative. He zoomed in to talk with our students last year, and they just loved him. And so that'll be great. And Dave, Mark, we've got.
I didn't know Mark was going to be there either. That was a surprise to me.
Yeah, right.
This guy, I don't know.
That guy, oh my gosh, he classes up the joint.
We can
skip there you go, Bob. Yeah.
What
Bob.
I want to say is it was really funny is that like the day, for some reason, the kid, one of my kids, like looked up Ithacon and my picture showed up in their Google feed because it was the day that it got that my name was announced. And it was funny. This guy, I can't wait to see him because he is a big fan of my mustache. So
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm happy about that. And I've been growing it out for him. Well, him and Dean. It's really for
Aren't we
Dean.
all?
Let's be honest.
Aren't we all? Yeah. Joe's great.
Great.
Tom Pyre from Ahoy, of course.
Yeah, we're gonna do. So for folks who are gonna be there, I'm pretty sure we're gonna bring back juggling chainsaws, act number 2, which is it's a panel that I like to do where at any show that I'm at. I'll always do that, and it's the name that I gave to a panel that I do called where I bring as many editors as I can, and we talk about the pitfalls and the joys and agonies of being an editor in comics. So Tom's going to join us.
And then we talk about taking over the world.
Well, that Louise was on the first. Mike and Louise were both in the first juggling chainsaws. Don Simpson's going to be back, and listen, we're gonna spotlight Emily Swan. If you go to Ithacon, go find Emily Swan's booth. She is a fantastic human being, and she is everything that's good about comics and this community that we're building. I want to spotlight that. I want to let people know. Please go find Emily. She's a wonderful person, and she's got great stuff. She's a fantastic artist. She cares about all kinds of nerdy things. So definitely go check her out. And Ken Wheaton's going to be there. He's a great, fantastic artist. Lots of cool stuff. Glenn's coming back. I'm excited for.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Chris Wildrick, I'm excited to meet. I don't think I met him. Was he there last year?
I do believe. Yeah.
I gotta make time to meet him this year.
Yeah, we've dragged him out to some of the academic panels in San Diego, and he's a great guy. You think I came up with something by teaching a Comic-Con class. He at SU, he teaches a cosplay class, and he loves cosplay. He's super knowledgeable, and so great.
So running across the bottom of the screen, everybody who's checking it, that's where the dates, the location, this website that we're looking at right now. So please go there and buy tickets and make your plans to go up to the wonderful wilds of Ithacon and Ithaca, New York. We'll be there. Pop Culture Squad will be in attendance. We will actually have some Pop Culture Squad memorabilia for you to get your hands on as well. So
memorabilia. Have we been around long enough to have memorabilia?
Swag. How about that?
Swag. I get that. That I understand.
Swag. We got swag. There's gonna be stuff. Sherry's hard at work. So
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be great. And we're super excited and getting ready, and we work really hard to make sure that guests, excellent, Sherry, that guests have a very positive experience. We talk a lot about white glove treatment for customer service, and also all the attendees. And one new thing, brand new news, we're going to have Joe Rybant from Dynamite Comics come on.
Oh, great.
And they're excited. We're having a Thundercats panel and a Space Ghost panel. So
nice.
Cool.
We're excited about that. We're very excited about that.
Gargoyles, not Thundercats.
Gargoyles. Listen, we're gonna get to that in a second. You're spoiling question of the day, but we're gonna get to that.
Sorry, man.
That's fine. We're gonna get to that. What's the best thing you've encountered this year as you've been building this show? I mean, you do it every year, at least since I've known you. We've been doing it. What's the thing this year that is there a story that you kind of have come across that's just kind of like hit you in the right spot?
It's one of the cool things about Ithacon is it's like running a small company, but you fired everyone last year and you have all new employees. So, the employees are good, like the old ones were good and the new ones are good, but that any organization has that institutional memory.
Yeah,
So,
and you don't have any of it.
yeah. So
It's
Bill
just Ed's
has
memory.
it. I forget a little more each year, it seems. And, we kind of hobble it together. So, that's, we're in the middle of, I don't know, flying the plane as we build it sort of thing. And,
Great. You always land it just perfectly. So
well,
yeah.
we'll see. Fingers
Let me
crossed.
tell you the biggest difference in my mind, between Ithacon and other conventions. Other conventions have a large staff of people who help out, who work. Some are volunteers, some are probably paid, or I don't know.
Maybe
And they're working. It's hard work. And
Yeah.
they fail sometimes because it's hard work. Your folks are always happy and enthusiastic and also hard workers. And I've been trying to figure out what sort of strange substance you give them right before the show starts. I want to get my hands on that because it makes everybody productive and happy and fun to be around.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I mean, well, thank you for saying how kind that is, Mike. How kind. Yeah, thanks, Patrick. I think that at the core of it, a guy like Bill Turner still really, really loves doing it. And for me, it's a great like gift in my life to do it. And yeah, it's work and extra time and all that, but what a great, great gift. And I think we try and embrace that good mentality and then push it out too. So I mean, if I was digging ditches or something, I might be complaining, but when Sunday night comes around or Monday morning, we have a whole ritual Monday morning where it's not like you collapse. There's certain things that you do the Monday after the show.
Right.
I'm still like, wow, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. And it's great fun, and being able to, to coerce or blackmail. I don't know how we get you guys up every year lately, but to get you guys up and have fun with some good people is great. And Zach, don't look down at that keyboard, man. We're getting you up to this thing soon too.
Yeah, I'd love
Yeah.
to go. I'd love to go. It sounds really cool.
Yeah, we're
It really is. It really is.
the thing is,
I'm real picky about the shows I go to because I only have so much strength left.
You had me at a smaller con where it's easy to talk to people. Like that's
oh yeah,
that's
it
the
is.
magic
Yeah.
formula.
It's super small. Like, to be honest with you, yeah, Mike. So it is the same weekend as C2E2. So
I have an excuse. That's good.
so any excuse Mike doesn't have to go to any excuse Mike has to not go to a Reed show, he's happy. So
Yeah, well, I like
nothing. We love Reed. We love Reed. Sure.
Yeah. It's a different. Well, I like big cons too. I mean, I'm not somebody who, hates crowds or something like that. Like, man, I love the crush of of a San Diego. That's a lot of fun, but it's a different kind of fun. And this is a special fun thing that we're able to do.
That's because you don't have a cane.
Yes, probably.
Now I use a cane, which comes in very handy at conventions. Very handy, because sooner or later somebody with a backpack the size of a refrigerator is going to slap you in the head.
So
And
I noticed that Marv is using a cane these days.
oh yeah,
and given he's way taller than you, and not that you're way taller than me, so I'm not complaining. But like, so can you imagine the size of that cane swinging around at people?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I want to. So let's bring Zach in. Like, so when you were what was the first comic show you went to? When you started to do it?
I think it was a Wizard Con they used to have at the Rosemont Horizon outside Chicago.
So that used to be Chicago Comic Con, right?
that was Chicago Comic Con, which I helped start.
Yeah. I went there. My parents took me to that when I don't remember how old I was, like 12 or 13 maybe. But yeah,
Exactly.
the old Rosemont Horizon over by O'Hare Airport. Yeah.
Great
So-
restaurant across the street. That's
and
that's
you
something
kept
said.
coming back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've like Mike was telling us like you go to one con and then it's just flows into the next, right? Until I go to 3 or 4 every year, like easily.
Yeah, it's important. It's a thing, and I excuse me. I mentioned it last week when we were talking to Tim, that it's when you haven't been to a show in a while, and then you go, you've if you're part of this community and it's in your blood, you feel at home. You're around, just being around comics, like just being around art and people who care about comics, because there's something about it that, and I don't, this is not meant to be exclusionary, but there's something that you want, that sense of community, because it's not everywhere. Not everybody has that same experience and that
No,
same
no.
feeling
No.
about that love for comics. And it's something that is very, very hard for someone who has been in this, who is part of this, to express, because it's a part of you, and it grows a little bit. Like you have that Grinch heart that all of a sudden it starts filling up, when you're around that. And so Ithacon is a great place for something like that. And I find that doesn't matter what show I'm going to, I'll find it. Just like I can't wait. I don't want to leave. I just want to stay till the end.
People in our little donut shop,
Yeah, in the donut shop.
people who hate each other for whatever reason,
True.
still refer to each other by their first names. That's how wonderful comic book conventions can be.
Yeah.
Because you get there, somebody you haven't seen in a couple of years, somebody you loved working with, somebody you loved. You grew up reading. I mean, one of the first guys I ever met at a convention was Al Williamson, and that just made my career. That was
Sure.
it. It's a fabulous experience, even back when being a nerd was not well received. It was a very fulfilling, and it still is a very fulfilling experience.
Yeah. That's a nice thing too. It's different than so many other things. Like if you're someone who's into like the NFL, you don't get to hang out with the players, or you go see a band,
Right.
you don't really talk with, the lead guitarist or the singer, whereas you go to a Comic-Con, you're rubbing elbows with,
Lee
folks
Simonson.
inspired or inspired. Yeah.
I have known Walt and Weezy for almost 50 years.
I understand.
And every time I see them at a convention, it's wonderful. And that's true for many other people too, but Walt and Weezy are going to be at Ithacon. So, I don't have to talk about Dean again. And that's
I'm
really
very
one of the great thrills for a guy like me all these people, all these wonderful people that you've been friends with for years and years. I can't not be in touch with them because I still go to conventions.
Yeah. And that it ranges too. Like Chris Condon met one of the folks who worked on the show a couple of years ago, and like for that person to know Chris Condon was like, knowing Al Williamson, right? It's like all that thing. And we each have our, our entry points and our connection points. And that's all so lovely.
Yeah.
By the way, the one time I offered Al work when I was at DC, he turned me down. He was very nice about it, very polite. We had a 2-hour conversation, and I don't regret a moment of it. And I didn't think he'd take the job to begin with for reasons I won't go into. But he was my first choice on Black Canary.
Oh,
really?
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't think I've mentioned that in public before.
I don't know that you've ever mentioned that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Oh, I'm now disappointed. I wanted to see that.
Trevor did a great
Trevor
job.
did a great job. Trevor did a great job. Absolutely. But
I know.
wow.
Ella Livingston, come on.
Jeez, can you imagine? Wow.
What could have been, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Hot tub. We need hot tub con.
I want to, since we got you guys on and we're talking about the community, there's a topic that came up over the past couple of days. I'm not sure it it bubbled on Facebook, and I'm sure it's come away. Are we familiar with the creator rights around Wolverine story that's been bubbling? You guys,
Yeah.
Zach, you heard about it?
Yeah, I haven't dug too much. I've seen people talking about it, and I
Well, I
know
want-
the loose outline of what's
Yeah,
happening
so I
with
want
it.
to I want to talk about it. So Bobby Chase kind of wrote this up, and you can it's a public post, and it's who created Wolverine, and let me tell you, it's significant in terms of what she put together here. She's done some research, and the gist of the story is that it's a done deal that DC has informed.
Marvel, was it?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I meant
Probably-
Disney.
probably not.
I meant more Disney, Marvel. Yeah, thank you. Has informed Len Wein's widow that for the Deadpool Wolverine movie, Roy Thomas will be credited as co-creator of Wolverine along with Len Wein and John Romita. And this stems, for those who haven't been paying attention, from the fact that Roy claims that he suggested the name and the nationality of the character. And
as editor, correct?
as the editor, he was on staff. He was editor in chief at the time.
And editor in chief, yes.
He was editor in chief at the time, and he is now through his representation become an official co-creator. This struck me. It was interesting that it showed up because I've never met Bobby. I'm a huge fan of her work, and she is, from all intents and purposes, from everyone I've spoken to who has worked with her, a fantastic editor. And it showed up on my feed because some of the people she tagged in it, Peter Sanderson, most importantly, and she was kind of questioning it. She did some research. She talked to Len's widow. She talked to Glynis Oliver Wein, his ex-wife, and doesn't quite understand it. Apparently, there's some stuff that happened or was put on a blog some years ago related to certain things, but the really difficult part of it is that this is happening now after both Len and John have passed away. Herb is also no longer here. He was the person who drew Wolverine in comics for the first time. And it kind of hit my knowledge actually a little before this post came out, because Mark Waid had posted something about a week ago and said, hey, if you're an editor, you don't get creator rights, right?
That's right.
And I was wondering where that was coming from, because there's only two characters that I know of where editors who are on staff are even listed as co-creators. They're both newer Marvel characters who are also legacy characters. So it's Gwenpool and Ms. Marvel are the only two characters that I know that editors are listed as co-creators. So thoughts? I know, Mike, you're upset about it, but Zach, what was your take?
I forget who said it. It was either Mark Waid or Kurt Busiek said something like, if you're building a house and you hire an architect and you say, hey, I want 3 bedrooms or whatever, that doesn't make you the designer of the house. It's still the architect, right? I thought that was a really
I think it was Mark Wade to Kurt Busiek.
okay, yeah. So it was an exchange that came in an exchange between them, and so I mean, that seemed to be a really effective summation of what was going on, and neither of them know, of course, much more about it than I would.
Yeah, yeah. I think I probably. Well, I know that I'm in agreement. The two things that are so odd to this, to me, are somebody reminded us all in that old issue of Foom, the kid who sent in like the idea for the character who is Wolverine with the exoskeleton and the whole bit, which it's like maybe that kid should get a creator credit for it too, like published with basically that concept. I'm also concerned somehow we're our own worst enemy, and I worry about the legacy of some of the people involved here, and by making these choices, that might overshadow some other things that people do, and
Sure.
What a drag, right? We're our own worst enemy.
I mean, that's before we went live, Mike and I were talking, and I let him know we were going to talk about this, because rarely do I give Mike any hints about what's going to happen on the show. But I did let him know we were going to talk about this. And what you're talking about right now is exactly what he said, that, it's saddening in some way that this may be somebody's legacy.
Yeah, well, that's the part that bothers me the most. But I have to point out that both Roy and Len have been friends of mine forever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, what bothers people is that Len is not here to defend himself or to make an argument or to discuss it or even agree with Roy. Len's not here. That's just reality. So the question that pops up in my head, this is the third Deadpool movie and the, 200th Wolverine media appearance. And why now? I don't understand that. I hate to get Steve Ditko all over everybody's ass, but that's just me. We editors know the deal when we sign on. And if we've had any experience in editing, we know that there are creative moments, genuine creative moments that editors have. There are more than several characters that I came up with that other people have credit for. That doesn't bother me. That was part of the editorial process. We're talking story, we're talking character, and we do something. That's the job.
I want to talk about that particularly.
I will, as soon as I'm done with my rant. And
rant on.
So therefore, and Roy knows that. And Roy, one of the guys who got Roy into the business, Mort Weisinger, co-created Aquaman and Green Arrow and all kinds of characters. He doesn't get credit for it. You look at the creator credits on Aquaman now, and you'll see Paul Norris's name, which is fair, but you will not see Mort's because he was an editor. He was the editor. Is that fair? I don't know. I see Roy's point, or what I think of as Roy's point, because we haven't discussed it. But and I'm sure he's not really interested in discussing it much. If Roy were to get hit by a truck, and I'm not advocating that, he's older than I am, and we try to take care of each other. I think what would happen is that this will be the thing he will be remembered for. Yes, Dean, you're right, to the best of my knowledge. The last thing he'll be remembered for by some people will be screwing Len Wein, and that's not right. on many, many levels, but it's not
Right.
right because Roy has done so many fabulous things
Sure.
in the history of this medium. I was a fan of his before he even got into comics because I was reading Alter Ego, his fanzine that he and Jerry Bates and a bunch of other people
Mhm.
did. And in point of fact, I still have a lifetime subscription to it because I was a subscriber to the original. You know? So this whole thing upsets me greatly. The deal is you don't cop a creator's money. That's the deal. Comics does not pay well, and it's not a secure job to have, just as Kurt Swan. That's all I want to say. Well, that's not true. I'll say a lot more, but that's all I'm going to say.
So, I mean, if you ask anybody in the world who created Grimjack, it's John Ostrander and Timothy Truman, right?
Yes, and that's not entirely fair.
And that's entirely fair. However, that doesn't that there are ownership of the characters different than creator right. How much did you have to do with the formation and formulation of Amanda Waller?
That's interesting. That's not a question that I had expected you to ask.
I say that because Amanda means a lot to me.
Legends, yeah.
Because it means a lot to me because it means a lot to John, financially, as well as emotionally.
John is the creator of Amanda Waller. You can argue that John Byrne had something to do with it, helping design.
John Ostrander would argue that John Byrne may not have had as much to do with it as John Byrne gets credit.
And if it came down to a court of law, and I hope that doesn't happen, I would probably agree with that. But the fact of the matter is, that's John Ostrander's character, and that's it. I was there for the creation, so were others.
Sure.
Robert Greenberger helped develop Suicide Squad. He was my assistant editor on Legends, where Amanda started. And it's John's baby.
Oh, yeah.
I could say more about that, but it's John's baby. If anybody laid a claim to it, they better have a photo of me somewhere to know who to look for.
Yeah, like with that analogy, I'm thinking that nobody ever claims the doctor in the delivery room is the parent, right? They're part of it.
Perfect.
I think that wins the argument.
That's it. That's perfect. You nailed it.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, this is pure nerd talk. I mean, let's be honest. This is the kind of stuff, we're all going back and we're throwing these things out there because these things mean stuff to us.
Although, Bob, if I can interject, I do have a, what's that, like Sophocles, like take the other argument.
Yeah.
I do have one other thing, like for us to consider. Like one of the things that bothers all of us is that there's some schmuck in Hollywood at Fox or whoever's doing this picture, who's making more than any of those folks, right?
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe, are we fighting amongst ourselves, or is this a way for one more comic guy, Roy Thomas, to get more Hollywood money as the industry tries to claw back some of what it rightfully deserves? So that
the problem
guy who's pulling down $400K from this movie,
yeah, but
less.
I don't think he's
from
right. That's the thing. They're not going to say, oh, well, Wolverine's creators, we're going to get this much, and now we're going to give them this much more. They're still going to get the same amount. It just gets divided over 3 people instead of
I see.
three
The pie remains the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same size pie.
Yeah, and I must point out that Disney does not pay very much in terms of honoraria to the creators to begin with. DC pays better, not great, but much better. Ask Jim Starlin.
Yeah,
But-
Starlin
but-
said that he got more for his cameo in Endgame than he got for using Thanos.
Wow.
Yeah, something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Something wrong with that.
Yeah. Brubaker too, right? Was that him?
Oh, I don't know the story, but Lord knows I would not be surprised.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think for Winter Soldier, he had like an extra
Oh.
part or something. He made
Yeah.
more.
And,
I remember
and
that.
Kelly Sue was in Captain Marvel, and I think she probably got more for that than. I mean, she doesn't have creator rights for Captain Marvel, but it was just nice for them to put her in the movie.
Yeah.
And she got and so there's that other thing, and then the other part that beyond the movie establishment, part of the problem that as somebody who sits in this business and cares about creators and the things that they do, and I spend a lot of time, I spend a lot of effort, volunteering for Hero Initiative throughout the years, and I care about creators being taken care of. There's this fight over back and forth, and you'll see, Jerry Conway's, constant, arguments, and you see, Tony Isabella constantly, in his complaints about how they're being, nickel and dimed and told, like, you created this character that we're going to make a huge movie out of, but it's not really your character because it's a derivative of something else when it suits them, right?
That's right. And
Mhm.
everything, just about everything in some way, is a derivative of something else. So that argument just doesn't wash for me. Not at all. I am reminded of Al Cap and Ham Fisher. Ham
Mhm.
Fisher was the guy who created
This is the fun
Joe
stuff.
Palooka. Joe Palooka. And Al Cap got his start as an assistant to Ham Fisher. And he created the character for Ham Fisher, for Joe Palooka, called Big Ithacon. And he was a country bumpkin. And when Cap, as everybody else eventually did, quit Ham Fisher because he was an asshole, not that Cap wasn't, he started Labner. And Fisher said, "Oh no, you ripped that off from me because I own Joe Palooka." And this fight went on for 20 years. And Fisher lost it. He went nuts. He started like drawing pornography into copies of Little Abner to prove to the world that Al Cap was a pervert. Turns out it was easier to prove that than one might think, but not that way. Yeah. Not that well. He's
I'm down on the outcap stories.
And
Which is a
I'm
family.
not going to go. I'm not going to go where you're afraid. I'm going to go.
Okay.
I got that part. Finally, Fisher was thrown out of the National Cartoon Society for what he did to Cap, and he then committed suicide. So I've seen historically where this argument can end up,
Sure.
and I don't like it. I don't like where it ends up.
But I'm sure Roy's seen that too, and he's and to be honest with you, I mean, I haven't talked to him, and I don't know, he hasn't been part of this. Just so you know, I mean, Bobby's post has 333 comments. There are some interesting ones. There's plenty of what you would expect. As we were talking, Mark Wade, kind of popped in. I just want to Roy gets some minor bragging rights. That's it. Full stop. No argument. He deserves zero financial equity. Zero because he was paid, staffer at the time, and brainstorming and guidance. This is like an editor's fucking job. Good point. Roy knows this.
That's right.
So,
and Mark, let us remember, Mark was an editor too.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, he knows what he's talking about. We've all been through this, and if anybody's, I thought it was interesting, something that we're talking about as a community, and it brings up important things besides this particular issue. Like, one is that what should be remembered by is that creators need to be remembered and to be acknowledged for the work that they do and paid for it. And
Right. And paid for it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So as a burgeoning comic book creator there, Zach, make sure you protect all of your IP.
Yeah.
That is the lesson of this episode.
Well, it's young children like Zach.
I'll tell you, that bookcase, make sure nobody owns that bookcase but Zach.
That's right.
Yeah, there's nobody's banging down my door to buy the rights to that bookcase.
Don't worry, they will.
Just wait. Eventually, that may happen. You don't know. You don't create something because hopefully someday it'll live beyond comics. You create it because it's a good comic.
Yeah, 100%.
But you get to benefit from all the stories of all the other people who got screwed, living or dead, and you have an idea what to watch out for, a better idea than what to watch out for. Len came into the business in the 1960s, where if you got a check for what you did, that was it. You had no rights whatsoever, nothing. You don't see Siegel and Schuster's name on the old 1950s Superman TV show.
Well,
I think it's gone by then.
What you're talking, like, because we've heard all these stories, like, you'll see a lot of creators my age that gravitate as quick as they can to doing their own creator-owned work, like James Tynion leaving from the flagship Batman book at the sort of height of the popularity of it to do his own thing. Like, I think a lot of that is from these cautionary tales that we've heard constantly. Yeah.
And you'll see things like, for example, so Tom King has been at DC for 10 years now, right? And he's been a major contributor to their work. And in that time, he's created exactly one character. That's Gotham Girl. What does that matter? But he never created any characters there.
Yeah, I don't think we haven't discussed it, but I don't think that's a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence.
And I know many, many other people who will not create an original character for Marvel or for DC. Now,
I guess Ruthie counts, and she's probably going to show up in a movie, but
yeah, and they'll probably write him a check.
He's
John
writing checks. He's helping write the movie. He's definitely getting checks.
Yeah, there's that too. But John's gotten checks for Amanda.
Yes, and that's my point. My point is about that is that when I had a conversation with John, one of the first conversations is that he was very clear that Amanda Waller is the only thing that he ever gets any royalties from. So whenever she shows up, he's happy.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm happy not just for John, but for reality. This is what is proper. Should he get more? Oh yeah, of course I feel that way. But look, at least he's getting this, At Disney, you don't get squat.
Sure. I thank you guys for being here. We're not going to go. We're not done just yet. We haven't, the last 2 weeks. We haven't done the question of the day, so we are doing the question of the day today. And the question of the day is, what is your favorite television cartoon?
Whoa!
And Ed, you go first.
Oh man, well, I will go with Space Ghost, and I will plug Ithacon. We're doing a watch and I don't know what it is, watch and learn or watch and eat, where we're gonna have cereal and milk and for free, so you can watch Space Ghost on Sunday morning. It's not Saturday morning.
Oh, that's cool.
could in the old days. So
What a
So,
great
yeah,
idea.
like, is it
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
like
fun.
how many of them are gonna be there? Just you're just gonna like let it run all day, or
oh no, it's just a panel. So
oh, okay,
15 minutes. We're going to show a few episodes. I was
Awesome.
just learning all about Hoyt Curtin, one of the two big musical guys at Hanna-Barbera in those days. And then I was listening to the soundtracks, which they played over
Okay.
and over in every cartoon, and like
Right.
it's in my brain, when I'm happy or when I'm in danger. And yeah, I've got like a whole new appreciation for the Hanna-Barbera soundtracks.
Yeah, like I'm just thinking, wasn't there like a similar sound that played in the Herculoids that's also part of like the intro to the first Super Friends, like that dun 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 dun, dun.
Oh yeah, they used like
I think that sound was replayed.
over and over, like the I think the underscore is what it's called.
Yeah.
Move beyond the
So
marketplace
yeah,
and
it's
reach more
yeah. So that's hang on. I got a little bit right here, like this stuff, right? Can you hear this?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah, here's Johnny
That
Quest.
sounds like Johnny Quest. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's like the scary, thoughtful part. All horns. No guitars. Establishing shot, creepy night.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think this is the same soundtrack to Star Trek, the original
And
series.
you've got a really cool hard disk drive somewhere.
Yeah, I just opened YouTube in another window.
I see.
All right, this is a great one. I'm a huge fan of Hanna-Barbera, and I'm interested to see what Dynamite's going to do with them. What's yours, Zach? What did
I land on? What's the spirit of the question? Is it like children's cartoon or like?
It doesn't have to be. It can be. The spirit of the question is like, it can be. If your favorite television cartoon, it's got to be television, like a serial show, something like that. That's the answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's easy to say The Simpsons, right? Like
That's fair.
Grew up
That's
watching.
totally fair.
Absolutely
The
within
Simpsons.
that. And Ken Wheaton, Simpsons artist, is going to be at Ithacon. So
Yo, thank you.
And also there's been a lot of comic book talent in The Simpsons and the creation of The Simpsons. So
are the
I
Simpsons?
understand where they're coming from.
Are the Simpsons older than you? Like how?
No. I mean,
Almost. Not that far.
I was of an age, like I was in grade school, I think, when The Simpsons were like breaking out, and my parents wouldn't let me, or my mother wouldn't let me watch it because she didn't like that Bart called his dad Homer. So that was like a thing I had to grapple with and then she gave up because The Simpsons were everywhere and it was super popular.
That's right.
Yeah.
The guy who voices Homer and others, Dan was at WXRT right before he went over to The Simpsons. So his voice has been very familiar to me forever.
Yeah, he's another Chicago guy. Yeah.
Yeah, sure is. Well, Second City, My turn.
Yep.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's it. Rocky and Bullwinkle, high water mark of American entertainment.
This is very hard for me because I was that person, and I will shout out my wife, who's probably sleeping by now, but and one of the funny things that when we were getting back together, she told me how it was really she would watch. And we go to sleep to Bob's Burgers every night. Like we watch cartoons constantly. And she still watches cartoons. And as an adult, her dad would be like, what are you watching cartoons for? And she's, no, cartoons are great. It's Gatchaman. For me, it was Battle of the Planets when I was a kid. You know, when with the Alex Toth treatment around it. But and they're there. My little Ken. And I'm super excited for the Gatchaman comic to come out from Mad Cave. And hopefully we're gonna have some of those folks on in the next couple of weeks or so. But there was something about it, and I saw Cullen Bunn talking about it a couple weeks ago when I was in Kansas City, and he kind of hit it on the head. And they were cool. Those I remember being like 12, 13, and coming home from school and watching Battle of the Planets, and those kids, they had this. It was from '72, right? So that's when it was made, and they were just so cool, and they were superheroes, and they were trying to save the world, and they were friends, and they were a family, and it was just, that was the thing for me. It's so with Battle of the Planets, but it's Gatchaman. All right, so Dean has jumped in, and his answer is Magilla Gorilla now.
Of course.
And, so we appreciate that. Anybody else who's out there still wants to throw in their favorite television cartoon? I will tell you, it was. I'm going to share this story about Gatchaman. When I interviewed Chris Sotomayor for the first time, Chris and I have become good friends since then. But I asked him the nerdy question, which was, what was the cartoon that you had to watch? You had to get home from school to watch, and his answer immediately was Battle of the Planets. And it's interesting because if you watch the old episodes, like the first season, there was a much longer intro where they named all the characters, right? And then they cut it and they didn't name them. And I said, well, what about that? He's like, man, I hated it because he used to not take the bus money that he had, because he lived in New York. So he, instead of taking the bus money, he'd buy comics at the bus stop and then walk alongside the bus as much to get home. But those couple of extra seconds they cut off, he missed like the first couple of minutes because they cut the intro. Oh, he had it timed perfectly. And that's how it was back in those days. And Patrick has jumped in and given us Batman the Animated Series, which is fairly,
I agree with you, Patrick. Absolutely. And
I mean, it is like DC has done a really good job with a lot of animated series and even film and stuff like that. I think Batman the Animated Series is the high mark, absolutely. Yeah. But
I will say it has a lot of nods to Space Ghost, which had a lot of Batman.
Oh yeah, and even more to Fleischer's Superman.
Yeah.
Which is the epitome of American animation as far as I'm concerned. Now, the only reason why I didn't say Superman is because it wasn't television; it was in the theaters.
Oh yeah.
I would have gone there otherwise. So, but I absolutely agree about Batman, and it wasn't DC. It was Warner Brothers. It was Bruce, and Paul, and it was also a lot of Batman comics writers. It was Len, it was Denny, it was Steve Englehart. Marty Pasco was a story editor. They got the right guys to do the job.
That was the show for me that I was rushing home from school to watch as a kid. That was the must see after school show.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We used to get the tapes and at DC, and we'd all get together in the conference room and watch once a month. We'd watch 3 or 4 of them.
Wow!
All of us, and that. Let me tell you something. That was both the most enthusiastic room you could have hoped for, and the toughest room you could hope for. That's right. What I was responding to Patrick. Uh,
Yeah, no.
It was wonderful. Talk about community. They had to be in that community, in that room, with the lights off, sharing those Batman shows. That's
Wow.
a great time.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I kind of brought this comment up, and I kind of like it more than I thought I was going to, and I'm glad about it, because one of the things that it kind of ties. There's a lot of things about cartoons shows that tie directly into comic books. So because of the people who passed along, like a lot of, for people my age, the Hanna-Barbera stuff that we were talking about earlier, and Alex Toth's mark on a lot of that is important in terms of where things came from, and those were all of those shows. I love them all. And the fact that Future Quest is not continuing will forever be a tragedy to me. So that's kind of interesting. But even still, like things like you brought up Marty and Thundar the Barbarian is has a lot of comic book roots to it. Marty worked on that. Ed, I don't know if I ever told you this. Do you know you're familiar with Thundar the Barbarian, and it's a little after your time.
Words of light.
Exactly. Okay. Do you know why Ookla the Mock is named Ookla the Mock?
Ooh, I don't. I must learn this piece of information.
You know, Mike, right?
No, I don't.
Marty named him. Marty went to UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
Ookla.
Oh, love it. Ookla.
Oh, that's great.
Like Planet of the Apes thing where they mangle the name of history. Ookla.
Yep.
I like that.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
That's one of the things I love. I told that to somebody on the internet and they lost their mind.
Oh,
yeah. I'm about to, but sadness of Marty's passing.
Yes, I understand
that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's so funny about this? I bet we all have the same reaction. Like, if you like, Bullwinkle, Fleischer, or, Battle of the Planets, or Simpsons, or Hanna-Barbera, like, I kind of nod. I'm like, oh, yeah, I respect your choices, but, I'm right. Like, my stuff was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's religion. It's religion.
Yeah.
I mean, I love almost everything that we've talked about. I mean, I don't think there's one I didn't love. Bob Clampett deserves to have his name put into this conversation because he was Bob Clampett. And he and Tex Avery could be the only two people who ever worked in animation, and it would still be a wonderful life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you guys for hanging with us. It's been a wonderful jam-packed show. Thank you again for being here. Ithacon is coming up at the end of April 27th and 28th. Go there, find out about it, tell your friends, tell everybody about it, and then in the comments you will see a link to Death of Comics Bookcase. Go back that. We're super excited about that book. We're super excited about this, and we want Zack to get all the things so it can be his day job, and we'll move forward. You're up to 105 backers. Listen, we got 5 backers.
I want it to happen just because I want to see the bonus material.
Oh yeah.
All right. Yes, please. Let's make it happen.
Thanks for being here, Zack, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you all so much. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We're happy to host you on your debut day.
Yeah.
Zach, I had a great time. Ed, I've never had anything less than a great time with you.
Oh man, me neither, Michael. Right back at you, brother.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks out in the middle of beautiful nowhere.
It is beautiful nowhere. That's a bad name. I love it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you,
listen,
folks, for watching.
I'm gonna give Patrick one last thing. So Star Blazers is the greatest, has the greatest comic, greatest cartoon intro ever. The season 1 Star Blazers intro song. It tells you the entire plot to the entire first season, and it is the greatest thing ever. So,
Bob, when you get around to asking the question of the week, and that question is favorite TV show theme song, I've got a story.
I'll hold that.
for you.
I'll surprise you, but I will put that in the
Okay.
roster. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Everybody, go ahead and make sure you subscribe to popculturesquad.com. Make sure you back Comics Bookcase. Find out about what's going on with Ed at Ithacon. We'll see you next week. We don't have a confirmed guest yet, but we'll be here and we'll figure it out, and it'll be good. I know we have a couple of irons in the fire on that one. So everybody, thanks, guys. I'm pulling those guys out because we got to get out of here. Excuse me.
Glad to see you're getting over your cold.
I am feeling a lot better.
And that cough is the last thing.
It is. Thanks so much, everybody. We're gonna say goodnight, and we will see you next week. Thanks. See you later.
Take it easy.
This has been a production of the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?